Have you ever noticed that some of the things you do with your hamster might seem strange to people on the outside, but make perfect sense to you? Maybe you talk to them, watch every little movement, carefully adjust their environment, or feel concerned the moment you notice even the smallest change in their behavior. And the truth is, that's not overreacting. It's not a habit or a quirk. It's connection. Neuroscience shows that when we form a bond with a small animal that depends on us, the EIA brain starts to respond differently, activating instincts of protection, awareness, and emotional attachment. And this is exactly where things start to get even more interesting, because the more we understand our hamster's behavior and the signals they show us every single day, the stronger that quiet connection becomes, the one that slowly grows inside our home. And if there was ever a moment when you caught yourself doing something that might have seemed like too much, simply out of love for a tiny animal, then maybe this video is speaking directly to you. So if this message is already starting to resonate with you, leave a like. It helps this content reach other people who also want to better understand the bond they share with their hamsters. And drop a comment down below if you've ever felt this with your own hamster, because I truly want to hear your experience. And if you enjoy learning about hamster behavior, body language, and the connection we build with small animals, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and keep discovering the signals that so many people still overlook. There's a very common behavior among people who truly love their hamsters and build a real bond with these tiny animals, talking to them as if you're having a conversation with someone who understands. And it happens naturally, almost without you realizing it. You walk up to the cage, watch your hamster's behavior, notice that attentive little posture, and you start speaking softly, as if you're creating a quiet moment just for the two of you. It might be a simple hi, a comment about their food, or even a full conversation while you tidy up their space. To someone on the outside, it might seem unusual. But within the relationship between a caretaker and a hamster, it's a clear sign of emotional connection. Neuroscience shows that the human brain naturally responds to fragility and dependence. When we care for a small animal, our emotional system activates protective and communicative responses. That's why talking to your hamster isn't an overreaction. It's a way to build trust, safety, and recognition. And the more this communication happens, the more your hamster's behavior begins to change, responding to your presence in ways many people still don't notice. If this part of the story describes something you've already experienced with your hamster, one simple sentence can sum up that feeling. I talk to him because he's part of my life. After spending some time living with your hamster, another behavior starts to show up almost without you noticing. The need to check if everything is okay with them all the time. You walk past the cage and take a look. You're working and suddenly you get up just to check. You hear a different little sound, and your heart instantly becomes alert. To someone on the outside, that might seem like too much worry. But in reality, it's one of the clearest signs of an emotional bond with a small animal that depends on you. The human brain creates a kind of quiet vigilance when it takes responsibility for a fragile life. It's the same instinct that makes someone look again and again at a sleeping baby, just to make sure they're breathing peacefully. With a hamster, that care shows up as constant awareness of behavior, posture, eating habits, and daily routine. You start to recognize when they're active, when they're unusually still, when something in their habits has changed. And over time, that attentive watchfulness stops feeling like effort and becomes instinct. This happens because your brain begins to map patterns. It learns the time your hamster usually wakes up, the way they move, how they respond to their environment, and any small change immediately stands out. It's not anxiety, it's connection. It's your emotional system working like a protective radar, always ready to notice signals that other people might never see. And the more you observe, the more sensitive you become to those details. And that's exactly where an even deeper behavior begins to emerge, one that many people feel but rarely understand where it comes from. If you've ever caught yourself looking at the cage just to make sure everything was okay, there's a simple sentence that captures that quiet sense of care. And then there comes a moment when that care goes beyond the physical space of your home. You leave to work, study, or take care of something simple. But at some point during the day, your thoughts drift back to him. Is the hamster sleeping well? Did he eat? Is the environment comfortable enough? That kind of concern doesn't come out of nowhere. It appears when the bond with a small animal stops being just part of your routine and begins to take up an emotional space in your mind. A lot of people feel this and get confused because it can seem disproportionate to think so much about such a tiny animal. But neuroscience explains that when we take on ongoing responsibility for a vulnerable life, the brain activates attachment circuits similar to the ones we use with people we care deeply about. It's as if a part of your mind keeps your hamster present, even when you're far away. It's not drama. It's not overreaction. It's your brain monitoring what it believes is important to protect. And that's why, when you come back home, the first thing you often do is look at the cage, watch your hamster's behavior, and check if he's active, calm, and safe. That gesture may seem simple, but it carries a deep meaning. It shows that the bond doesn't depend on distance. It continues to exist even when you're not physically there. And the stronger that attachment becomes, the more your brain starts to anticipate needs, adjust routines, and make decisions with his well-being in mind. And that's exactly where another behavior begins to appear in everyday life, something that completely changes the way you organize your environment and see the world around this tiny being. If you've ever felt that quiet sense of missing him or worrying while being away from your hamster, there's a sentence that captures that feeling perfectly. Even when I'm far away, I'm still taking care of him. And this is the point where something starts to change very clearly in the behavior of people who truly love their hamsters. The home environment begins to be seen in a completely different way. You start noticing details that once felt too small to matter. The temperature in the room, the position of the cage, the noise around it, the brightness of the light. Suddenly, everything begins to be adjusted with one single goal in mind, making your hamster feel safe. And this doesn't happen by chance. It happens because the brain develops a quiet skill called anticipatory empathy, the ability to sense discomfort before it even happens. Maybe you've already changed the bedding because you noticed he seemed restless. Maybe you moved his little house, adjusted where the food sits, reduced noise, or created a more stable routine to improve his behavior. Small decisions, simple on the surface, but ones that reveal a deep level of attention to the well-being of a tiny animal who depends entirely on your care. And the more you observe, the more you learn to predict needs. Your brain starts thinking ahead for him. It begins to imagine scenarios. It starts acting before a problem ever appears. This is one of the strongest signs of an emotional bond with a hamster. When care stops being reactive and becomes preventive. You don't wait for something to go wrong before you act. You organize the environment, adjust routines, and create safety before any threat even exists. And little by little, this way of caring becomes natural, automatic, almost instinctive. And it's exactly at that moment that many people realize something surprising, that love for such a small animal can grow to a point where size no longer matters at all. If you've ever caught yourself reorganizing the environment, just to make sure your hamster is comfortable, there's a sentence that captures that feeling perfectly. And then we arrive at a feeling that many people keep to themselves, because it's not always easy to explain to others. At some point, you realize you're not just taking care of a hamster. You're emotionally connected to him. You watch his behavior, recognize his habits, understand his signals, and feel something that goes beyond routine, a kind of affection that grows slowly, almost without you noticing, until it turns into real attachment. It might be when he shows up at the door of his little house as soon as he hears you nearby. It might be when you notice he relaxes at the sound of your voice, or when you realize that the environment you created has become the safest place he knows. These small moments trigger a powerful sense of responsibility and protection in your brain because your hamster can't defend himself on his own, can't ask for help, and doesn't understand the world the way you do. And it's exactly that vulnerability that creates such a strong bond. Neuroscience shows that the human brain responds more deeply when it senses dependence. The more fragile the being, the stronger the instinct to care tends to become. And that's why love for a small animal can grow so powerful. It has nothing to do with size or appearance. It has everything to do with trust. With the fact that this little being lives in a world that you control, and within that world, you become the source of safety, food, routine, and protection. Maybe you've felt this quietly before. That moment when you look at your hamster and realize he depends on you for everything, that every detail of his behavior, from the way he eats to the way he rests, is connected to the choices you make every single day. And when that awareness settles in, something shifts inside you. Care stops being just a task and becomes an emotional commitment. And that's exactly when many people understand a simple but powerful truth. Loving a hamster is not something small, because to him, you're not just someone who shows up once in a while. You are the environment. You are the routine. You are the safety. You are the entire world he knows. If this idea touched you in any way, there's a sentence that expresses this bond with complete clarity. And if you've made it this far, it's because, at some point in this video, something touched you. Maybe it was a memory, a quiet feeling, or that realization that the bond you share with your hamster is deeper than most people imagine. Because those who truly understand hamster behavior, the ones who notice every detail, who who create a safe environment and build trust day after day. Know that this kind of care is not small. It's meaningful, it's emotional, it's real. So if this message spoke to you in any way, I want to invite you to take a simple step right now. Subscribe to the channel, especially if you feel like this content describes exactly what you experience with your hamster. Here, we talk about hamster behavior, the signals that often go unnoticed, body language, and the connection we build with small animals in a way that truly makes sense for people who genuinely care. And write this phrase down in the comments. I am his world. It's a simple way to say, in just a few words, that you understand the depth of responsibility and love that exists in this relationship. And if this video brought you reflection, knowledge, or even a feeling you didn't quite know how to explain before, leave a like. That helps this content reach other people who care for a small animal and want to better understand the bond they're building every single day. Now, don't stop here. There's a video appearing on your screen that perfectly complements this topic and will show you hamster behavior signals that many people overlook without even realizing it. Click on it and keep going with me there.